and pleased to preach on this first Sunday of Advent and on the celebration of Fred Beal's 20th year as organist at St. John's. This congregation and its liturgical sensibilities have been enriched by Fred's talent and presence very deeply. And I am delighted by this fact as well. Originally, we were going to celebrate Fred last week on the Feast of Christ the King, but we had to move the celebration day forward to this day, in which things are coincidental, but also incredibly accurate. While we celebrate Fred, we also hear the sad, somber readings the lectionary gives us today. We hear that we do not know when God is coming, and we celebrate Fred's impact here, surely a sign of the presence of God. Listening to the readings is like listening to the news. We have managed to get ourselves into a catastrophic state of chaos. We are heading toward destruction, and we don't have a clue about what to do about it. I have to say, this is not what one expects 22 days before Christmas, unless one is a lectionary geek. As usual, however, we will not be left without guidance, and also, as usual, it will not be what we anticipated. And, of course, I am all too mindful of the fact that our sense that the world has one foot in the grave with the other foot sliding quickly behind it is an echo of Isaiah and of the psalmist. These texts, Isaiah and the Psalm, help us anticipate what Mark will say in the Gospel. These texts are strong, persuasive, intercessory prayer for powerful intervention. The psalmist says, "Show us the light of your countenance," reminding God of the light which allowed the Israelites to escape Pharaoh. So much we want to see the way. We would like to see the light which would show us the way out of all this hate and violence and misery. Mark wrote his gospel near the time of the Great Revolt against Rome. Some authors have said that the Great Revolt led to the greatest catastrophe in Jewish life prior to the Holocaust. The famously unbalanced Roman Emperor Caligula had demanded that a statue of himself be erected in the temple at Jerusalem, but the Jews among all the client states of Rome refused to do it. In the way of all things, Caligula died before he could exact retribution on the Jews, but Roman provocation and humiliation and degradation of the Jews intensified. So when the next Roman procurator started to steal silver from the temple, the Jews rioted, and with the help of Syria, defeated the Romans. By this time, there was active civil war between the Jews who wanted to defeat the Romans using warfare and more moderate Jews who wanted to resist but not go to war. Rome retaliated with 60,000 troops in Galilee, killing or selling into slavery 100,000 Jews. Their brothers and sisters in Jerusalem did nothing to help them, and when those who escaped that melee in Galilee arrived in Jerusalem, they wiped out the moderate Jews as well as their stores of food. Needless to say, they did not survive the next Roman onslaught. And 60 years later, there was another failed revolt, which brought the death toll to 1 million Jews and to the total loss of Jewish authority in Israel for 2 millennia until 1948. Many commentators believe that Mark is now writing to the moderate Jews in the time of this horrible warfare, urging resistance but not warfare. Thus, in Mark's gospel, Jesus tells people that they will be persecuted, but not to worry because the Spirit will be with them, and perhaps more to the point, there is hope on the horizon. Today's gospel finds Jesus talking about the end days, the hope on the horizon, when, after so much suffering in the world, the Son of Man will come with the angels and gather everyone to himself. This prediction sounds promising. And indeed, all of Christian hope rests on passages like this. But we are not given a timeline. Instead, Jesus says, beware, keep alert, because you do not know when the time will come. But we wanted some help now. We need major guidance about the state of the world. It's tempting to say that telling us to keep alert leaves us off no better than we were. So what will happen if we keep alert? Jesus says the master may come home at any time, which I take to mean that if we are alert, we will begin to experience the nearness of God more regularly, because we will recognize the signs. Nearness in this context means being loved, being attended to, being close to. Being and feeling loved makes us more loving, and the experience of more love in the world brings it closer to God. Thus, the invitation here is two things. It is to be resistors. We are to resist war of any kind. And two, we are to look for signs. We are to look for signs of God, not for signs of the not God. Signs of life, not signs of death. We are called to be resistance against false gods, the death bringers, power, greed, arrogance, isolation. We are called to be agents of inclusion, of negotiation, of imagination. We are called to speak, to vote, to listen, to share, and to pray for peaceful justice. This is a true story. More change has happened in this world as a result of peaceful resistance than of all the wars in history. Yes, please, Google it. I can't make this up. Because, however, we live in bodies. We also need signs and sounds and touches. We need signals and portents and dreams. We need visions and stories and songs. We need music. Advent is the time set aside by the church to investigate with vigor the signs and portents of the mystery that surrounds us. Advent is the time to think about the opportunity and possibility of all things. For instance, this strange and unexpected series of unfortunate events which I had, like Lemony Snicket, were they signs of my rotten luck? Or were they messages that if I paid better attention, I might figure something out? Or this odd invitation, or this person I've never spent time with but have seen often, or this idea that keeps talking to me from the back of my mind. What if I saw these things as an invitation? Living in this mystery of what is here but not yet here is not what we think we do ordinarily, but it is what happens if you believe in this gospel. Jesus is suggesting that if we pay attention to the mystery, we will become more aware of and more ready for the arrival of God in our lives on earth and our lives beyond the earth. One of the easiest ways to pay attention to the signs of God working in us is with music, I think. We are wired to respond well to music, to attune to it, to heal from it. This is well documented and well practiced. We can allow it to stimulate our imagination, to evoke memories, to envision futures, to encounter the divine. There's a reason people like good music in their churches. Fred Beal has been the conduit and producer of beautifully evocative music in its church for 20 years. He is, without a doubt, a wonderful, skillful musician whose presence among us has graced our liturgies, shored up our sense of the sacred, and given us reason for joy these 2 decades. More than that, he is a faithful, kind, hardworking, and giving member of this congregation who never fails to ask what he can do to help. When I work with Fred, I am aware that he is a signal to me that the mystery is nearby, that he is offering me a light for my pathway. He has a certain unshakable, unflappable embodiment of faithful goodness. When Fred is there, I can really sense the power of love in our midst. May God bless you and keep you, Fred. And may you reap the blessing you have been to St. John's for 20 more decades.